This is Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast.
Police this morning are searching for the person who turned this Harlem platform to a crime scene.
A Red Apple Media Podcast Network production. Now, here's Bo Dietl.
Welcome to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. Been away a while. Been doing a lot of movies, TV series. I'm really happy to be back at the Red Apple Podcast here. You know, this is one of the most important things I do because a lot of people listen to this show and they want to know what's really going on. So how I'm going to design my new podcast, first 8 minutes, we're going to talk about current things that are occurring right now in our city and our country. I think we should start off immediately what's going on our streets. First of all, God bless those 2 police officers that were shot by that illegal immigrant from Venezuela. He was from Venezuela. He was in the country illegal. He had been arrested before. This is just one. And remember, President Biden was the one that gave amnesty to all these people. We have no idea who's in our country. Our biggest problem is that we don't know who are walking on the streets. We had these 2 officers who were shot. Thank God they're going to be okay. Then we hear about these migrant centers. I think there were 5 stabbed in one migrant center. And then the biggest thing is I drive around New York. I have had my business for 40 years. Every day it's like, it reminds me of I was at a place called Casablanca, and that's over there in Morocco, when they used to have the bikes riding all different ways. That's what New York has become right now. No license plates. They don't have a license. We don't know who they are. They come up to your car. My car's gotten scratched. My son was hit by one of these bikes and ruptured his ACL. Another friend of mine was hit by these bikes. This is just turmoil in New York City. And until we wrap our arms against these quality of life that's going on, it's just going to persist and persist more and more. I just was with the mayor. I was at the mayor for 10 minutes. I'm not going to tell you where, but the mayor is trying his hardest now to go against what's going on with the New York City Council. Every time he proposes a bill to support the police, get more cops on the streets, also to show the police the good support, he gets demeaned by the city council, including Adrian Adams, the city council president. This is what he has to deal with. Everybody says, oh, Bo, you know the mayor so well. Yeah, I do know the mayor. I do know the mayor very well. And his biggest problem is combating what they want to do. The other day, I went to a fundraiser for Kathy Hochul, our governor. I actually gave her some cash, and she was there with her husband, who was a prosecutor in Washington, D.C. So I said, Ms. Governor, I says, you know what? You have power. You have power to make an executive emergency decision for New York State where you could come out and say any immigrant that is illegally in this country who is arrested on a felony can be turned over to ICE. I don't understand what the hell is the problem with turning over people who we don't even know who they are and why we can't turn them into ICE. This afternoon when I spoke with the mayor, I says, again, I know you want to turn these people over to ICE, especially the ones that are committing felonies and they're illegally in this country. And he says, again, that city council will come back. But I said, ask your attorneys to find out as an executive order. You as the mayor and also the governor as the governor, your responsibility is to protect the people of this city and this state. And when you have illegal people in this country, we don't know who they are, committing felony crimes, we should have some alternative to turn it over to ICE and find out who the hell they are. I don't want to scare people. I have a lot of intelligence people that I talk to, and it's not if, it's going to be when. We're going to have a terrorist attack in New York City. I don't think it's going to be planes going into the buildings. I think it's going to be multiple levels of terrorist attacks in New York, especially what's going on in Israel with Hamas. God knows how many Hamas people have gone through our southern border unrestricted and not knowing who they are. Right now we have millions. And then they got the gotaways. What's a gotaway? A gotaway is we don't even know who the gotaway is. Gotaway, who the gotaway? We don't even know who it is. And that's in our city and in our country right now. You know, it's just funny that that's the suspect in the shooting of those 2 police officers was from Venezuela. And that was one of the genius things our president did by giving amnesty to these illegals. And we did no backgrounds. We have no background. So you arrest them, they release them, and they commit more crimes. The worst is, I'm telling you, with these motorbikes, motorcycles, no license plates, and how they feel against the cops, where they can assault them, they could do whatever they want. Now they're shooting at them. When is it going to stop? I love this city. I love this city so much. I grew up in this city. I was a cop, a detective. I've shed my blood. I was one of the original decoys. I was mugged 500 times, stabbed, shot at, fractured skull. This city I love, and I am staying. I'm not moving away. I'm staying in New York City. I run a security investigating business for the last 40 years. I employ 600-700 security guards in this city for a lot of great places, including the South Street Seaport, the Convention Center, and all over the city. I will stay. I want to help this mayor. I want to help this mayor clean up this city. And then all of a sudden, my guest that's coming on right now will talk about what we've been talking about. And all of a sudden, it's starting to be talked about and implemented. We're talking about the city charter revision. And this is something that can happen. What it means is that in November, if we do it right, we could put it on the ballot for the people of New York, everyone. Blacks, Hispanics, Jewish, whoever you are, what is your main concern? I think it's my main concern. I still have my two sons traveling the subway, my grandson and my daughter, and I'm scared stiff of them. I'm able to carry a gun. They don't carry a gun. It is so horrible, and it's not perception. It's factual, and you walk along, and they just want. When I drove into the office this morning, I'm driving my car, and all of a sudden, the guy's on a bike. He comes behind me. I wasn't moving fast enough, and then he's there, and he swings I don't know if it was a tire iron or if it was maybe the pump for the tire, and he's swinging at me. He wants to hit the front of my car. I mean, when does this stop? And this is now happening every single day. And we just feel as though we've really lost it. And we know about those little girls in Brooklyn. Brownsville shootings are up 50%. Those two little girls that play in the playground, they were shot. When are we going to stop this? We've got to support the police, and we got to support our mayor. So this way, the people of New York, let's put it on the ballot in November to give the power of policing and protecting the city back to the mayor. And my guest that's going to be coming up, we're going to discuss it. And his name is Gary Tizler. A lot of people don't know who Gary Tizler is. Gary Tizler is a person who was involved with getting people elected. He's a political consultant. He was involved with getting 15 judges appointed, Jewish, Russian, Muslims. He's been involved with city politics. He's a consultant. He's the one that came to me with this idea about the charter revision. And we're going to be talking with him right now, and I welcome everybody to stand by for that. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Bo Dietl's One Tough Podcast. We're starting off again. We have about 150 of these podcasts in the can, great cases and all that. This, I think, is probably one of the most important ones because right now we're what are we at? Okay, let me start that one again. Okay, here we go. You know, we got about 150 podcasts in our library, but I think today this is one of the most important ones because we're right at the threshold of this city going one way or the other way. The only thing that I can realize and understand is that we have to give the power back to the mayor and take the power away from the progressive city council. And we've have these ideas that we brought forth, and all of a sudden now it's being spoken about. And I was just with the mayor half an hour ago. I'm not going to tell you where, but I was with him. And this is one of the areas that we should put this on the public ballot in November to help support the police, help support this mayor, and even if we could think about doing an emergency executive order, if there's a illegal person who has no identification and they're in this country illegally and they commit a felony, there should be no reason in the world why we shouldn't turn them over to ICE. Now I want to introduce my guest here, and my guest's name is Gary Tizler. And Gary, why don't you talk about yourself a little bit before we get into it, please?
Well, I've done a lot of political consulting over the years. I started out when I was very young, and I've elected several candidates and judges over the years. I generally pick independent Democrats into the system. I elected the first Asian person in Queens, a guy named Jimmy Mean. I elected the first Orthodox Jew to the city council, Susan Alter. I elected the first Orthodox Jew, Judge Rachel Fryer, and I've done several of those over the years. In the last few years, I also worked a lot early on with journalists like Jack Newfield, Wayne Barrett, people in other newspapers. And it is amazing how everything has changed in the last, 10, 20 years. The journalism has gone almost completely dead, and it's more got you now and narrative, very liberal. And it's not really investigative reporting. So I started writing again. I wrote way long ago, but I started writing again. And I've been writing about what's wrong with government based on what I know about how government works over the years. And I've been writing about the rise of the socialists in city government and state government. It really basically started with de Blasio in 2009, and there was a convergence of unions, de Blasio, and lobbyists and nonprofits together, and they built basically a progressive machine in the city. And I've been writing about that because the progressive machine has different values, cultural values, and values than the average of New Yorker. Just look at the polls. 80%, 90% of the people don't want changes to the bail. What's going on now with congested pricing?
Well, I think if I may, Gary, I don't think the percentage of the total, you're talking about the people in power, not the total of people in this city. I really believe that the total amount of people is the majority want changes to this bail reform because they see what's happening on the streets. Am I correct?
Yeah, 90% of the public wants changes to the bail.
Changes. Now, how we got together was I read some of your articles, Gary, and they were so interesting especially when you were bringing up about that these judges have the power to turn these people over to ICE. Because we know one thing, in New York State and New York City, they have this ridiculous thing that they cannot turn anyone over to ICE. There's no rhyme or reason behind that damn thing. And this is one of the reasons when I started to speak to you and you told me there is a way. And that's what I want to really talk about. Why does the city charter have to allow these socialists to control what the majority of our city, not Democrats, not Republicans, the majority of our citizens, public safety, why do they control what we do in the safety of our families and everything else? And what can we do, especially with the homelessness, destroying the city. And like I say, with these motorbikes, every time this mayor tries to do something to support the cops, they veto it. They veto it. I'm sick and tired of it. And you have an idea where we can maybe put it on the ballot in November where the people of New York City could vote to take some of the power away from these city council socialists.
They are totally empowered. They are very good at elections. The way the elections work in New York now, they're very low voting. So the socialists know how to organize their base and get them out to vote on election day, and they basically are very strong. What we have to do, and what I've been writing about, is we have to change the way the elections are run, and the way the structure of the city works to get the silent majority, what Nixon used to call the silent majority of New Yorkers, to vote, and we have to get them involved in politics and take the power away from the city council. They have the budgeting power only for since 1989. Before it was.
Now we know one thing. I'm sorry, Gary. We know one thing. Mayor Adams finally listened to us, and they appointed this New York City Charter Revision Commission to make changes on how the city operates. Can we talk about that a little bit? What that means?
Okay, the Charter Revision Commission is the way the structure of the city works. The mayor now is going to have hearings in the boroughs. Not too many people are showing up because nobody understands what it means. But it can change the power of the city council. You can take away the budgeting power of the city council. You can take away parts of the budgeting power and even give it to public referendums when the public can vote.
And a vote.
Yeah. Look what happened with Kathy Hochul today.
Mm-hmm.
She's now afraid of the elections, so she's delaying, congestive pricing or putting it off because they're afraid that there will be a backlash against the Democrats in this year's election. Let the public speak through referendums. This state doesn't have referendums. The Charter Commission could put together could okay referendums on the New York City ballot, and people can vote whether they want the bail law, whether they want charter congested pricing or anything.
And then 50%, if it's more than 50%, that becomes valid then, am I correct?
It depends on how the referendums are set up. Yes, it could be set up any way the Charter Commission wants to do that.
Similar to, Gary, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but similar to what they did with this ranked choice voting, which is a bunch of bull crap. And then similar to when our friend, the mayor, went for his third term. I mean, this was brought forth and we did it. So there are some things that we could do. And people who are listening, we all see every time the mayor wants to do something, they veto. I mean, he vetoes the thing that the city council, then they override it and they get the progressive policies in place. And I really believe the majority of the people, including we make this New York City a sanctuary city. Enough is enough. Let the people vote, because the people of New York City are losing their jobs now to these illegal people coming in. And I think we've had enough of it already. It's nice to open our arms up, but now we're opening our arms up not just to families with little children. We're opening our arms up to criminal. And we see what's going on right now. And that's why I'm so strong with this. And I plan working with you, Gary, where we can get this going. And now, can the New York City Charter give the voter the right to recall New York City people holding public offices?
100%. A lot of states have this. I think 18 states have this. New York does not have it. New York does not have a referendum to give the public a voice, or it doesn't have recall to give the public a voice. They've shut down the public's opinion. The public is, Bo, let me tell you, the public is very upset about government. 500,000 people have left. $1 trillion in Wall Street have left. There's empty stores. The public is angry as I've ever seen it in my life. They just have no way to express it. And the Charter can give them that opportunity.
Now, how do we get that out to the public now? What I plan on doing is probably putting something together where I talk to all my friends running these REITs like SL Green, Renato, all of them. These people are losing a lot of market value in their stock as far as with the REITs because no one wants to live in New York. People are moving out crazy. We have to save New York City. And if we don't do something, I'm talking about by November, we're finished. We're finished in New York. It's only going to go down to that rabbit hole. That's what it is, I guess, one of those rabbits. And all I can say is when talking to you, if there's a way, and I'm glad, I told you I was just with the mayor, I'm glad that we're looking at something now, because a few months ago they were laughing at me when I was talking about it, and now they're not laughing anymore. And I talked to a couple of attorneys with the city, and this is real. And we got to get it out there. Then we got to put together an advertisement group where people could contribute, people who live in this city, corporations that want New York City to be the greatest city in the world again. We all have to band together. The only way we can make it the greatest city again is to have a law enforcement police department that could do their job and have the support of the people of New York City, not the progressive city council of morons there. And I'm so upset when I see what they do. And every time this mayor tries to make a move to correct it, they step on him and they override his veto. Keep on going what we could do now to put this thing together.
We just have to get out to the public and also to the power brokers in the city and carefully explain them what the Charter Commission is. most of them don't understand it. Most of the power brokers in the city are used to going to a lobbyist and then telling the lobbyist what they want to hear. These lobbyists don't know how to fix New York. You have to fix New York with fixing the government to give the voters a say. They're leaving because they don't have a say. The voters have the right idea what to do with the city. It's just they've been shut out of government. It is the silent majority.
And I think when people realize their vote, it's just a democracy, and that's how things run.
Well,
vote.
this is how ridiculous it is. The progressives talk about democracy. They want to get transparency, but they really don't, because the public doesn't support their ideas. They're just going up there in their ideological utopia bullshit. They don't understand that the public does not agree with them. The public just wants to make a living, raise their kids, the American dream, raise them up, the Statue of Liberty.
I'm going to bring out a perfect example, because we were talking about something a couple of weeks ago, and I'm shocked. The people that could turn criminals over to ICE, the only people now with these stupid laws that they have in effect are the judges. And then when we go into the judge, I spoke to one of the greatest judges that I've known in my lifetime. I think he's 93, 94, Judge Edwin Torres, Supreme Court judge from New York County. And he would tell me, this is so ridiculous. He was the one that they used to not want to go before him when they committed a crime. And now the judges have the ability to bring ICE into their courtroom and take that criminal committed that felony robbery, and turn them over. Why aren't they doing it, Gary?
Because they think they're state employees. Judges there's something called the separation of powers. You can look up in the 1700s when the government was formed and the New York State Constitution was formed. Nobody's read it. The judges are not part of the executive branch or the legislative branch. They're their own branch. And when the governor or the mayor or whoever passed, you can't deal with ICE, it did not apply to judges, because they're not state employees and they're not part of the executive branch. They're an independent branch.
So why aren't they doing their job and turning these criminals that are committing felonies who are illegally in this country over to ICE? Why aren't they doing it?
Because they're totally controlled by the political bosses of the city, and now the socialist bosses who are moving in on the political bosses. They don't see themselves as judges. They see themselves as part of a machine of socialism or party bosses. They don't see themselves as separate. And you can have a lot of answers in that thing on how judges are picked for certain trials, if you know what I mean.
We saw it with this Trump thing. I've never seen anything.
It is all political, and it's all very easy to investigate, but nobody does it.
Right, you got a DA, a progressive moron DA like Bragg, all of a sudden wasting all these weeks and weeks, and then when you get a Marine like that young man that was protecting people on the train, and he's prosecuting him, and well, why aren't you prosecuting the people that pushing people in front of trains? Why aren't you prosecuting the people that are committing robberies every day, people stabbing each other, shooting each other? That's what you should be doing. This is a bunch of malarkey as far as I'm concerned. What's going on is, I'm fighting. I'm not running away. All my business friends are running away. They said, Bo, come down to Palm Beach. Bo, come on, Miami. What are you doing, Bo? I says, I can't leave. I got my children and my grandchildren here, and I got to protect the people of New York like I did in the 70s and 80s. And I tell you what, I'm not afraid of anyone on the streets or anywhere else. And I'm certainly not afraid of these socialist city council morons. And you want to know something? All these laws that they put in effect, how do you not arrest somebody if you can't get them in the headlock without shooting them? How do you arrest somebody if you can't climb on top and put handcuffs? That's a diaphragm law. All these moronic laws that were put into place only handcuff one person. The police officers trying to make the arrest, and then they have to worry about being sued and losing their home and losing their job. You know what? You wonder why the crime is down, because I talk to cops every day. They go, Bo, I don't want to get involved. And somebody spit in their face, slap them in the face. They just got to take it. If they make the action, they'll lose their job. I cannot believe these poor officers on the street, what they go through every day with the harassment with these garbage can illegal punks that should never have been allowed into this country. Now they're all wide open to commit crimes, and they laugh. You saw what happened in Times Square. They jumped the cops. They were in uniform with a lieutenant and a cop, and they're kicking them. This is New York City. I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back. I got to go with you on this one, Gary. We're going to try to make this happen. I do have the mayor's ear and his attorney's ear, and we have to let the people of New York know exactly how we can change this. Put it on the ballot. Let's put it on the ballot in November to revamp this city charter, the city charter revision, especially against the city council of morons and idiots.
You got to let the people decide. You got to trust in the people's values. A guy is working in a bodega in East Harlem, has the values of protection of his family and his neighborhood. A black transit worker wants to protect. They have been cut out of power by the ideological city council.
And then you got a bus driver getting beat up or spat on and all that, and he can't do anything. And again, this just keeps coming to the top and the top and the top. And people are getting sick of that. And then if they do something, they're looking at to go after them, not the criminal. This whole city and this whole country has been turned up on its backside ever since, and I'll say it right out, the George Floyd effect. Since that George Floyd effect, when they were allowed in 2020 to burn, rob, assault, burn federal buildings, do whatever they want to do, nobody was prosecuted. Actually, in Colorado there, I think they got $12 million on a lawsuit for rioting. And it was rioting. It wasn't demonstrations. These were riotings. And in reality, what in the hell is the difference between those riots and any other riots? And now all of a sudden they're revamped, and God knows nobody wanted to see Mr. Floyd died. I didn't want to see that either, but he wasn't the person that I really believe that I'd want to have dinner with tonight.
The problem is not Floyd. The problem is the government and who controls the government, the structure of the government, and how the government is blocking the average person's values and culture. We have a very good culture in New York. It's worked for hundreds of years, generation after generation, of bringing in immigrants, bringing them into the middle class and making them, get the American dream. It's worked perfectly in New York City. New York City should be proud of that. The progressives are trying to disrupt the game.
They're trying, Gary, trying.
They're doing
They have. Yeah. Well, all I know is, Gary, we're going to go on with this thing, and we're going to bring this thing to a head. And like I said, I think part of it, now that we got the mayor that has proposed this city charter vision, what do they call that again, Gary?
Charter revision hearings, the commission revised the charter, New York City charter.
Right. And I'm being very honest with you. I would think about going on that, but I'd rather not go on that. You know why? I'd rather be part of raising the funds and going and putting a big nest egg of advertising budget where we could blast it to radio stations. WABC, we should have it on all the time. Blast the radio stations out there, blast the TV, buy advertisements, say, you can change this city. You have the power with our democracy to change this city. And that's what I'm going to do with every breath that I have left.
I want to help you. I want to help you come up with a good system of government for New York. Explain it, educate the leaders, that we can talk to in the city with common sense, and then sell this thing like hell.
Gary, I want to thank you so much. And, you're the guy that got me to understand that it wasn't as dark as I thought. There is a way to see the light and get out of this cave of progressive garbage and the threats and the violence and the crime. And we can see the light. And that could be the epitome that could spread across this country where they see New York turn around. And I guarantee you it'll spread across this country. Say, well, why aren't we doing it in Los Angeles? Why aren't we doing it in Philadelphia? Why aren't we doing it in San Francisco? America is for the Americans, and the Americans should be safe, and public safety is the most important thing as far as being a citizen of this great city and great country. Gary, thank you for giving me the ammunition.
I'll just say to you one more thing. Tomorrow is the anniversary of D-Day, and these guys had a much heavier task than we do. We can do this.
And God bless all our veterans from D-Day, World War II, and every armed forces. And God bless our law enforcement people across this country. And we have to change it. I want to change it. I still got a lot of energy. And one thing is, I'm a very difficult guy to stop. And I've been asked to run for office again. I ran for United States Congress in '86 and then mayor until Big Bird de Blasio knocked me off every line, Republican, Democrat. He used his guy who runs the Board of Elections to take me off the line. And you know what it's all about? I don't want to run for anything. You know what I want? I want to be the kingmaker with people that want to support the people's public safety across this city and this country. Gary, God bless you, and thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more in the future. Thank you.